Now that we've got our data displaying on a web page, let's talk about how to display multiple pages. And React is very simple in its core. You could do that with if statements. But there's a popular library called React Router. And so we're going to use React Router to do that. React Router. Huh. Before we get started, I did go ahead and make data. I did go ahead and make UNC and WakeMed directories under data. I created drg.js files in both of those. They have variables named UNC_DRG, keeping that same naming convention as the Duke file. And they do have that export default at the bottom. So again, I just repeated that work at the end of the video, and I'll let you do that as well. So we'll have 3 sets of data, and we will create 3 different tables. So I have not done that, so that's where we'll pick up. So I'm going to take this Duke table directory here, and so we'll do a copy and a paste. And so we have a Duke table.1, and we'll just paste that one more time, Duke table.2. And so we will rename this first one, and this will be UNC table. And we'll rename that second one, and that will be our Wake Med table. And so we can open both of those side by side. So open the UNC table, Wake Med table. And so we've just got some renaming to do. This isn't the Duke table. This is the UNC table. We'll copy that, paste that down here. Here, the table data is not Duke DRG. We want UNC DRG. So we want to import UNC DRG from data UNC DRG. So we'll save that. Index.js here under WakeMed table, we're just going to import WakeMed DRG from data WakeMed. Copy and paste this. That's our table data. Notice our columns aren't changing, and export to the default Wake Med table, and we just changed the name of that class. And so we're ready to go. So now we have 3 distinct tables with 3 distinct data sets. So let's talk about how we're going to get that data displaying in 3 different pages. So I've stopped my Create React App server down here. I'm going to drop down to app.js. And I'm just going to take out this Duke table for the time being. So we'll save this. I'm going to fire up. Let's see. Yeah, we're in the main thing. Just always double check where we're at. We're here next to package.json, so we can fire off an npm start. And so our server is going to start up. While that is starting, I am going to open. Oh, actually, I'm going to have to switch that tab. Let's get this over to the other monitor. While it starts up, so there it says hello. So we're back to basics there, and we'll just open a new tab here. So let's Google React Router, github.com, React Training, that's it. Reacttraining.com, React Router, that's what we want to go to. So reacttraining.com/react-router, and we are using React Router on the web. So we'll just click on web there. And so it has the quick start, and that's npm install. They have the create React app. We already have that. Then here's an npm install create React app. Yes, npm install React Router DOM. And so that's the install command that we want. So we'll jump over here. I'm going to leave our server running. I'm just going to hit the plus sign here to make a new terminal. We're going to pwd. Look where we're at. We're up a level, doing ls. There is no package.json here, so we're going to cd into hospital-data because that's what I named my React app. And then now I can see there's a package.json in here. And so I can paste in npm install React Router DOM. And so like I said, we did find out, and we'll double check that this happens if we peek at package.json and we're looking at the dependencies here. As we install this, we should see React Router DOM show up. It appears that you no longer need to use the -- save flag, but it certainly doesn't hurt to keep it. So there we go. We can see it did in fact add it to our dependencies. So we now have it installed. So we'll close this. We're back in app.js with a capital A. We're at this root component that we're working on up here, app.js. And right now we just have this component and we render hello, we return this component. Let's go look at the documentation here, the quick start, for React Router. It has an example for basic routing, and so we import a browser router as router, so this is aliasing. We import route and link from React Router DOM. And then they have a few, these functions, these are components. So you can write a component as a class. That's what we've been doing. Components can also just be functions when they just have a really simple, just return some content. So I'm going to copy this entire import statement, and we will drop that in here at the top of our file. Again, we're in app.js, our main component. And we're not going to use the browser router, so we're going to use the hash router. So you can just change that to hash router. And so import hash router as router, and then we have a route and a link. And so now we can go back here and follow their example of what they do. So they've wrapped this page in a router tag. And so that router tag here, it's using browser router because of this aliasing. They're just renaming browser router to router. So we're using hash router, but we kept that same renaming. We did hash router as router. So we can just copy this. Let's just take their entire setup here. So we'll just copy their example. And here, instead of returning a div with hello, we're just going to return, throw some parentheses in here, that router code that they had. Now, notice here, so they have route, path, slash, exact component, index. We don't have these components. Those were functions that they had defined. But let's just grab those two, actually, because it's a piece of cake. They were right there in front of us. So we'll have their little stubbed out views. So we'll copy these components. Just toss them in up here above. Save our file. And so now it's going to stop complaining. Our terminal, now that this is installed, just hit the little trash can here to end that terminal. We're back here in our Create React app, or the npm start for that, running in the terminal. So we can go back to our browser tab, React app, and now we can see there's 3 links. And our URL has changed. So we have a URL now. So we're at hash, that's what the hash router is for. We're at hash slash. And so when we click about, it changes to hash slash about. And it changes the content here. And if we click users, then it changes that to slash users. So I hope you can see where we're going, because we have 3 tables and we can set up 3 links to 3 different tables. So I'm just going to copy and paste this 3 times. We'll import the Duke table. We will import the UNC table. We will import the Wake Med table. And then we just change the path that those are coming from for those various components. And now we'll, instead of having this, I mean, we could leave this link to slash as home. That's fine. Now we can have a link to, and we can set of about, we can just say data slash Duke. And we can say Duke DRG. And we can have data slash UNC. And this link can be UNC DRG. And then we can copy, oh, we want to actually grab that whole list item, paste it down here. And so we can say data slash Wake Med. And this can be the Wake Med DRG. Now here, all we've done is specify that we want links to take us to these routes. So here we have to actually change the routes. And so notice the path here has to match the path above. So we'll do the Duke data first. So the path will be slash data slash Duke. And the component there will be the Duke table. So when the path is slash data slash Duke, we want to render Duke table. Notice up here the index just returns the word home, so that's what's going to happen by default when it does an exact match here on slash. So let's copy this route, and we'll get rid of users. We'll just paste this in 2 more times, and we have data UNC, and we have data Wake Med, and then the components would be the UNC table and the Wake Med table. So we just want to make sure we have these all lined up right. I hit save. It's telling us about and users are not defined. That's good. We got rid of those. So now If we're just sitting at slash, it says home down here. We can kill this URL. We can just go to slash. This is what it's doing by default. So by default, it's going to render that home component, which just, let's look right here one more time. That's index is what it's coming out of, and it just says the word home. And that's because slash here matches the route here, and it renders the component index. So now when we click Duke DRG, we will see that it renders out the Duke DRG table. If we want to look at the UNC DRG, we can click on that, and we can see the data should change. If we can see something obvious, I think they were very similar. Wake Med definitely doesn't have 6, 7, 8, so when we click on Wake Med, we should see that with a big swap out. I believe the UNC and the Duke data are very similar. And so the other thing we can do now, we can actually open these in new tabs. So we can open Duke and we can open UNC in new tabs, and we can compare those. There we can see the data had changed. Data Duke, data UNC. So let's go back to UNC DRG. There it goes. And it changed back over. And then we can go to Duke DRG. And so what I can see right now, we need some state that's keeping track of the fact that we're asking to render that component, and that component's taking a while. So there's something happening between clicking that and the component actually rendering. And so we're going to tackle that in another video. But for now, focus on what we've accomplished. We are faking these multiple pages, and we have components that essentially represent each page at this point. And so these are very simple components. They're just rendering the table themselves across each component. And then we can open those in multiple tabs. Now we have a way to route into each component. So this is a fundamental building block of how we're going to structure our application. So we're not necessarily just going to have a single page application with everything on one page that we scroll through. We may have some links and pages for clicking through the content. Obviously, we can click home and we can go back home. So I do want to try one thing. So we're going to go on a fishing expedition really quick. I'm wondering if that render speed will come up. These pages will get a little faster if we trim down how many tabulator rows we are showing. And so if we look in the documentation, there should be some setup options here. Let's see, general table configuration, height, default values false, set the height of the containing element, any valid height CSS value works. And so those get passed in when the table is instantiated. So let's go over inside our code and let's look at our default table. So I'm going to close these so you can see. So we have Duke table, UNC Wake Med table. Those all extend this table. And here we are not setting a height value. So let's try setting the height of this. And it said any valid CSS value works. So I'm just going to throw out something. Let's just throw out 500 pixels. And we'll throw a save on that. And let's go back over. And let's click on Duke DRG. And so that certainly rendered a whole lot faster. UNC, Wake Med, this is now instantaneous. So maybe we don't need that loading screen. We just needed to control how much time we're actually spending rendering, since we're not filling the page up with however many, several hundred rows of data, almost 1,000 rows of data here. There's some other things we can do. We can turn on filtering. We can turn on and adjust these sorts. I believe we have some data cleanup we need to do. Notice here, average price. This has cents on it, dollars and cents. The rest of these are whole dollars. So it's probably a good idea to swap that out and make Wake Med more consistent. But I may leave that as an exercise for the viewer. But something we can do really quick, just by having the sort on this column, we can sort by average price. And so we can see for Dukes, we know we're at Data Duke here, average price, almost $1 million, $900,000 for a heart transplant. Let's open UNC and Wake Med in new tabs. And let's sort by average price on those as well. And so we can really quick just compare those codes. 13553, 114.3, and 320. So it's interesting. Quite a few differences there. Code 3, basically $500,000 at Wake Med. Code 3, $611,000. So it's over $100,000 difference between Wake Med and UNC. And then how about Duke? Duke number 3, $820,000 for this apparently same operation. So that's the average price at Duke versus Wake Med and UNC. So you can start to see, hopefully, how this data comes into play, how we can explore it just even in the tables. Obviously, this page needs some cleanup. We need some way to let the user know where they're at. So let's address that, and we will wrap up this video. All right, fishing expedition canceled. Sorry. What we want to do to put the headers in here, just really simple. There is another way to do this, but I do not want to confuse anyone by attempting it. So here, we're going to leave this div. Oops. We're going to leave this div in here. I've added some parentheses. We're going to add a wrapping div. And just space this over. We're going to throw an H2 in here. And with our H2, we can put an if statement around that, but it's probably not necessary. I would say all tables need a name. So we'll just say the H2 will be this dot table header. And we will set that to a default table header equals an empty string. So we will save that. And now in our Duke table, we can just specify a table header equal to Duke University Hospital DRG. So we'll save that and then come over to our React app, and we can now see it says Duke University Hospital DRG. We will fix that. Same thing for our other tables. Let's jump into UNC table here. And so we will say table header equals UNC Medical Center DRG, and Wake Med gets a table header equal to Wake Med DRG. So we can save all those, come over here, and now as we click through, we can see that name change. We can see when we click on Duke, we're actually looking at Duke, UNC, and Wake Med.